Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, I will now continue the unfinished story. Chapter 21. Hee, someone's looking for you, Senior Brotherly. While Li Lingtian was in deep thought, a loud and cheerful voice rang out and interrupted his concentration. Li Lingtian recognized who it was without even having to look at him. It could not have been anyone other than Xue. Li Lingtian had not encountered Xue and the other two people ever since he had been in wall-facing cliff for reflection. Who's looking for me? There was a puzzled look on Li Lingtian's face when he looked at Xue and Shang Guanlinger before he realized that the girl looked more beautiful and charming now. Junior sister Shang Guan is looking for you. She has been dragging me along this entire time to look for you, and we finally found you. Xue let out a gleeful chuckle as he pointed at Shang Guanlinger who was beside him. Soon after that, he hurriedly stepped away while Shang Guanlinger remained far away from him. You. Shang Guanlinger's cheeks turned rosy before she glared at Xue angrily for a while. Junior sister Linger, can I help you? Something faintly stirred in Li Lingtian's heart when he saw how Shang Guanlinger was behaving. This little girl was extremely fascinating despite not being as noble or as threatening as Nangong Minjiao. Although Shang Guanlinger was not as adorable or gorgeous as Tang Zimen, she was beautiful in a unique and reserved kind of way. No, I was just wondering if Senior Brotherly was going to hunt demonic beasts at the Sky Mountains. Upon noticing that Li Lingtian was gazing at her, Shang Guanlinger's heart raced. Moreover, her voice had turned much softer now, like a mosquito's buzz. Nobody else could hear her. Waves of emotion stirred in the girl's heart as she recalled what Li Lingtian had previously done for her at the Life or Death Canyon. Not only had she become extremely curious about this senior brother since then, but she had also felt rather depressed during that period of not seeing Li Lingtian. Hence, she sought out Xue so they could look for Li Lingtian together. I'm not going to hunt demonic beasts at the Sky Mountains for now. Li Lingtian did not hesitate at all because naturally, his current self would not go to the Sky Mountains to kill the demonic beasts. Instead, he was cultivating several skills so that he could be included in the quota to enter the Hidden Dragon Isle. Several days ago, I was greatly rewarded for encountering a surge of beasts at the Sky Mountains, and I managed to exchange them for more than 1,000 spiritual stones. Here, this pill is for you. Xue took a jade bottle out and passed it to Li Lingtian while Shang Guanlinger nodded to gesture that Xue was right. It was also an indication for Li Lingtian to accept the pill. However, they were surprised when Li Lingtian pushed the jade bottle back at them. He then took 2 pill bottles out of his storage stack and passed them to Xue and Shang Guanlinger. What is this? Shocked, both Xue and Shang Guanlinger stared at Li Lingtian in a stunned manner. They had no idea what he was trying to say. I've managed to refine this pill recently. You guys should take it and use it. Li Lingtian chuckled before he stuffed the jade bottle in Shang Guanlinger and Xueda's hands. Did you really refine this pill? You must be joking. Since when were you an apothecary? Shang Guanlinger and Xue were still stunned since everyone knew that you had to be a Tier 1 apothecary to even refine the most basic pills. Li Lingtian's cultivation level was profound despite only being 14 years old, but the two of them still could not believe that he was an apothecary. Why don't you guys take a look? There was a faint smile on Li Lingtian's face when he looked at his two friends. The pill that he had refined was definitely not something that an ordinary apothecary could imitate. This is a vitality pill. You've really managed to refine a peerless pill. No, this is a high-quality, peerless pill. It's a peerless vitality pill. Shang Guanlinger and Xue opened the jade bottle in disbelief. When they looked at the pill inside, the pill even had a hint of Li Lingtian's spiritual qi on it, which proved that he had truly refined it. Xue was instantly stunned because the quality of this pill had exceeded his expectations. Indeed, This pill was several times more superior than the vitality pills that were distributed by the section. His expression changed greatly when he eventually discovered that this vitality pill was actually a peerless pill. Shweta felt as though he had seen a ghost because a peerless pill was considered a myth throughout the divine martial continent. Since it had never appeared before, nobody would have imagined that they would see it here. Why do you look so stunned? It's just a vitality pill. Li Lingtian laughed. He knew what a peerless pill represented, but he was not aiming for a mere vitality pill. Rather, he wanted a more impressive and higher quality pill. Otherwise, this would be an insult to the ancient pill art. Just a vitality pill. This is a peerless pill. Do you even know what that means? It's a legend throughout the divine martial continent. Shweta looked defeated as he stared silently at Li Lingtian. Was he insane? He had refined a peerless pill, yet he was saying such ridiculous things. The arrogant top-notch apothecaries would be terribly shocked if they had witnessed this. Senior Brotherly, are you actually an apothecary? Are you a great apothecary? Shang Guanlinger's face was filled with admiration as she looked at Li Lingtian and asked that question in a gentle voice. Senior Brotherly was a mysterious and unpredictable person. Not only did he have a terrifying cultivation level, but he was also able to refine a peerless pill. What's the big deal about great apothecaries? You can bet your *SS that I'm not one of them. Li Lingtian briefly pouted before he spoke disdainfully. Although he was only an apothecary now, it had barely taken him 1 or 2 months of fumbling around on his own before he could refine his own pills. If all he did was simply rely on the ancient pill art to achieve this result, great apothecaries were not that big of a deal to him. Hee, we won't have to worry about pills anymore. I guess we were too blind to notice that the person right next to us could refine peerless pills all this while. We should just get rid of these useless vitality pills. Shweta got so riled up that he picked up the original vitality pill in which he had gotten in exchange. He was about to fling it outside in an exaggerated manner, but he suddenly placed it back down. I'm going to sell it because this should be worth a few spiritual stones, Shweta reluctantly said as he kept the jade bottle. Hee. As Shang Guanlinger saw how Shweta was acting, she giggled playfully. Her enchanting laugh was enough to change the atmosphere completely. Hurry up and cultivate because the grand tournament is about to begin. Li Lingtian immediately walked to his room once he was done speaking. He had to quickly undergo his cultivation so that it would peak in time for the grand tournament. The atmosphere at the sect grew livelier with each passing day because the sect grand tournament was about to begin soon. The peripheral disciples were about to become outer sect disciples, whereas the current outer sect disciples were competing to become inner sect disciples. Meanwhile, the inner sect disciples were competing to rank higher so that they would be included in the quota to enter the Hidden Dragon Isle. Li Lingtian was refining pills in his room, cultivating the Flaming Divine Fist, Ice Vitality Divine Fist, Astounding Sword Technique, and Sky Perishing Spear. I've achieved perfection as a Tier 9 warrior. A satisfied look appeared on his face before he glanced outside. He then walked outside energetically and gazed at the sunny morning sky. The radiant sun had illuminated the whole area. While he was walking on the limestone paved path, Li Lingtian smiled faintly as he looked at the numerous disciples who were happy and excited. All the disciples were heading toward the Skycloud sect's Skycloud Square, which was almost half a mile wide in terms of length and width. The Skycloud sect used this square to hold their events. The square sat in the middle of the SEC's 4 mountain peaks, which was also the center of the Skycloud sect. At this time, the square was already filled with people within a radius of 1 mile. It was certainly quite amazing that the Skycloud sect had more than 10,000 disciples. Li Lingtian briefly scanned the square when he arrived. There were 4 gigantic arenas in the center of the square, and each arena was about 33 feet tall, 66 feet wide, and 66 feet long. Those 4 arenas were used for the disciples' competitions. On the opposite side of the four arenas stood a 300 feet tall platform with more than 100 seats. Everyone knew that those seats were reserved for the judges and organizers, as well as for the sect elders. I've heard that numerous top-notch genius senior brothers and sisters are going to participate in this tournament. We're in for a good show. It seems like senior sister Lan Yuyan has already become a tier 6 warrior spirit powerhouse. I don't think anyone in the inner sect would stand a chance against her. This is probably the first time such a thing has happened. Indeed, senior sister Lan Yuyan is amazing because she's a top-notch genius in the inner sect. However, I've heard that senior brother Dongfang Qingyu has also achieved the tier 6 warrior spirit. Both of them could end up competing against each other. You've forgotten someone. Who? Senior brother Duan Mucheng. He's achieved the tier 6 warrior spirit too. Oh, I should have said that I have high hopes for senior brother Duan Mucheng. How ignorant and inexperienced of you. Murong Tianjiao is the strongest. Xiao Tianba is the most impressive one to me. Numerous disciples were having an enthusiastic discussion in the square. The individuals whom they had mentioned were the most skilled geniuses among the inner sect for the past 5 years. They were considered as the most amazing geniuses throughout the entire Eastern Spirit Greenland because they had managed to achieve Tier 5 warrior spirit despite only being 20 years old. Only held once every 5 years, this competition was also a chance for the elite disciples to change their positions. Everyone who had spent the last 5 years honing their skills would wish to achieve instant fame here. Boom, boom, boom. A loud banging noise rang out as the sound of drums echoed into the sky. All of the Sky Cloud sect's disciples had heard it clearly, including the disciples who were deep in the Sky Mountains. Chapter 22. It's the earth-shattering drum. Numerous disciples stared at a gigantic drum in the sky which had a radius of about 33 feet. This huge drum was crafted with the skin of Tier 5 demonic beasts, and the sound of it could travel across a distance of more than 15 miles. The Sky Cloud sect's disciples would gather at the Sky Cloud Square whenever they heard the sound of this drum, except those who were undergoing isolated cultivation. They were not allowed to come over. Once the drum had sounded 9 times, the entire square became quiet as many disciples continued to rush there. In the blink of an eye, there were more than 30,000 people in the square. At that moment, around 30 powerhouses shot out from the depths of the Sky Cloud sect. Li Lingtian was secretly shaken when he felt their powerful vigor. Every single warrior spirit powerhouse had achieved a Tier 5 warrior spirit. The 30 warrior spirit powerhouses approached the tall platform and stood on top of it. Following that, 12 silhouettes fluttered over before everyone realized that they were all Tier 9 warrior spirit powerhouses. Once the Tier 9 warrior spirit powerhouses had arrived, 4 elders who were about 50 years old flew over as well. The powerful chi that was emitted from the elders' bodies produced such intense and endless pressure that gave people an oppressed feeling. Warrior King powerhouses. They're really Warrior King powerhouses. Deep down, Li Lingtian was incredibly shocked. Since warrior spirit powerhouses were already extremely strong, he had never imagined that 4 warrior king powerhouses would appear as well. Warrior kings were certainly mighty existences. It seemed like the sect had placed a lot of importance on the tournament this time because they had brought out their warrior king powerhouses. Naturally, this was done to ensure that everything was fair when they were examining the disciples below them. For the sake of the sect, they could not allow any geniuses to be overlooked. I, Long Tian, am the organizer of this tournament. I swear that I will judge this tournament in a fair and impartial manner. Elder Zhang Ling, Elder Qin Tian, Elder Ji Mu, and Elder Bai Shui will examine and supervise you together as well. Once all the powerhouses on the platform had sat down, a Tier 9 warrior spirit powerhouse in the middle stood up and announced loudly. Being a Tier 9 warrior spirit powerhouse, his voice echoed throughout the entire square. The tournament will be split into 4 stages. Warriors who are Tier 5 and below will join the first stage, while those who are Tier 6 to Tier 8 will join the second stage. Next, Tier 9 warriors will join the third stage while warrior spirit disciples will join the fourth stage. The top 10 individuals in each stage will then be allowed to join the next stage's tournament to compete to win a spot among the top 100 in the end. An abundance of prizes are in store for the top 100 disciples, and the top 50 disciples at every stage will also be awarded. Registration starts now. Long Tian spoke loudly and clearly as he repeated the tournament rules again. All the disciples were extremely shocked because they had never imagined for the format of the tournament to be different this time. As soon as Long Tian had finished making his announcement, the disciples below started to register themselves at the respective areas, according to their stages. Their cultivation level and status would be checked during registration to prevent Tier 9 warriors from going to lower stages. Otherwise, it would be unfair for the others. Senior Brotherly, we've finally found you. A crisp voice rang out before a sweet aroma instantly drifted over. When Li Lingtian turned around to look, he realized that Shweta, Shang Guanlinger, and Chen Yun had arrived. Aren't you three going to line up for the tournament? Li Lingtian glanced at the trio before he quietly asked. Of course we're going to register for it. It doesn't matter whether we win or lose because we get to compete with all these powerhouses this time. We'd never let such a good opportunity slip away. Shweta spoke loudly. Since he had received Li Lingtian's peerless vitality pill, he had managed to cultivate himself and progress from a Tier 5 peak warrior to a Tier 6 peak perfection. Chen Yun had also reached Tier 6 perfection while Shang Guanlinger had made the best progress out of all three of them. She was previously at Tier 4, but she was now at Tier 5 peak warrior perfection. Since she was already at Tier 5, it was extremely likely that she was in a more advantageous position than Chen Yun and Shweta. After all, everything was due to the difference between their tiers. Aren't you going to register? Why are you here? You're supposed to register over there. Shang Guanlinger pointed at the area for the disciples in the second stage to register. Obviously, she was unaware that Li Lingtian had already achieved Tier 9 warrior perfection. As such, Li Lingtian was currently standing at the area for the third stage. I'm entering for the third stage of the tournament, so why would I go there? Li Lingtian smiled before he spoke indifferently. He had always gotten along well with his three friends. The third stage is for Tier 9 warriors. You. Unless you're at Tier 9. That's impossible. You were only a Tier 3 warrior when I first met you, and only a few months have passed since then. Oh my god, don't you scare me. All three of them were completely stunned because Li Lingtian had managed to advance by 6 tiers in less than a year. Was he defying the natural order, or were the rest of them clearly too weak? But it's only Tier 9. Li Lingtian kept saying these ridiculous things with a straight face. Despite that he had advanced by 6 tiers in half a year, he was still acting so calmly. At this point, he was a terrifying threat to the rest of them. He had achieved Tier 9 peak warrior perfection, but he could continue progressing to other states if he had not reached his limit. Furthermore, he did not spend much time cultivating because most of his time was spent on refining pills. The other people looked dejected as this news had certainly traumatized them. Brother Lingtian, you're here. While the others were stunned, a sweet voice rang out and Li Lingtian could instantly feel that numerous stern gazes were fixed on him. However, a sense of helplessness stirred in his heart. This voice was extremely familiar because it belonged to his fiancée, Tang Ximen, who was an exceptionally beautiful young woman. Numerous disciples in the Skycloud sect who had nothing better to do had nicknamed her the unique and talented beauty. She was also known as a goddess throughout the Skycloud sect. Many disciples secretly desired her as their partner because she was a goddess in their hearts. Wherever she went, Tang Ximen would always be accompanied by a large group of followers. Now that Tang Ximen was with Li Lingtian, he naturally became the center of attention as well. It was impossible for him to have any peace and quiet. Goddess, my name is Chen Yun. Bang. You're heartless. How could you abandon your friends for a chick? I hope you receive divine punishment. A perverted look appeared on Chen Yun's face when he saw Tang Ximen. He wanted to approach the beautiful woman, but somebody kicked him and caused him to fall on the ground painfully just as he was done speaking. Chen Yun noisily cursed under his breath before he finally returned to his senses and crawled up. Junior sister, my name is Xue Die. Dear God, please send down a lightning bolt and burn this pervert to a crisp. A good-natured look appeared on Xue Da's face while he disdainfully looked at Chen Yun, who was on the ground in the distance. As he was about to approach Tang Ximen, he was sent flying up into the sky and crashed on the ground instead. Hurry up and register yourselves. Li Lingtian glared briefly at both of them before he turned around and looked at Tang Ximen. Although they had not seen each other for only a few months, she looked much prettier and cuter than before. Senior brother Li, I'm going to register too. Upon noticing Tang Ximen's unique and gorgeous appearance, Shang Guanlinger could not stop the ache from stirring in her heart. Moments later, the young Tang Ximen turned to Li Lingtian and piped up. Brother Li, who is the senior sister? Tang Ximen pursed her bright little red lips when she asked that question. She hung onto Li Lingtian's arm as she glanced at Shang Guanlinger in the distance. Her actions had instantly attracted numerous people to stare daggers at Li Lingtian. If looks could kill, he would have been murdered at least 10,000 times already. The Sky Cloud sect's disciples had secretly thought of Tang Ximen as their goddess, but they never had the chance to speak to her on a normal basis. So when they saw her clutching a normal disciple's arm in an intimate manner, they felt an impulse to rush over immediately. Well, she's my junior sister whom I met some time ago. Li Lingtian spoke indifferently, ignoring all the murderous gazes that were fixed on him. Then, he started to line up at the third stage with the other Tier 9 disciples. There were more than 10,000 disciples in the Sky Cloud sect, and more than 2,000 of them were Tier 9 disciples. Oh, you're standing at the wrong place, brother Lingtian. Tang Ximen faintly tugged at Li Lingtian as she spoke gently. Li Lingtian was at Tier 6 the last time she saw him, so she could not help herself from feeling shocked now. Naturally, she could not believe that Li Lingtian was at Tier 9. No, I'm not standing at the wrong place. Li Lingtian smiled. He could not be happier with his fiancée, Tang Ximen. All the disciples in the Sky Cloud sect thought of her as their goddess, but she had been pledged to marry Li Lingtian ever since they were children. If Tang Ximen had been in his previous life, she would have been a peerless beauty such that all of the other gorgeous women would surely pale in comparison. The Tier 9 warriors are the only ones who can register for the tournament here. Brother Lingtian, are you? Could it be that you're a Tier 9 warrior now? Tang Ximen's spirited pupils darted around before she looked at Li Lingtian in disbelief. She would not have dared to believe him even if she was beaten to death. Yes, you're right. I'm a Tier 9 warrior now. As his cultivation level grew higher, it would be harder for people to tell. Even a warrior spirit powerhouse would fail to determine the true state of his current cultivation level. Tang Ximen looked dumbfounded, but a delighted look replaced her expression after that. Her heart was filled with excitement as though she was the one who was a Tier 9 warrior. Later, Tang Ximen constantly remained by Li Lingtian's side, accompanying him as he went to line up and register himself. Nonetheless, she did not want to participate in the tournament. It was impossible for her to compete against the Tier 8 disciples when she had only reached Tier 6 peak. State your cultivation level and your name. Two Tier 5 warrior spirit powerhouses were carrying out the registration for the third stage. They barked those orders indifferently as they saw Li Lingtian walking over. Tier 9 warrior, Li Lingtian. Once he had finished speaking, Li Lingtian extended one hand and stretched it toward the crystal before him. After that, his name, status, cultivation level, and other information appeared there. A 15-year-old Tier 9 warrior. The warrior spirit powerhouse who was responsible for the registration let out a shocked cry. A 15-year-old disciple was a Tier 9 warrior. The powerhouse was also incredibly surprised because the young man was no less a peripheral disciple. All the other genius disciples only managed to become Tier 9 warriors when they were at least 20 years old. Furthermore, they had also relied on countless other resources to climb up. Deep down, the powerhouse was stunned by this young man. "All right, here's your plaque. Good luck." The warrior spirit powerhouse who was carrying out the registration glanced happily at Li Lingtian before he passed a plaque to him soon after that. Suddenly, all the other disciples around them glanced unconsciously at Li Lingtian a few more times. This was the first time that the person at the registration area had wished a disciple good luck. This meant that he had high hopes for Li Lingtian. Chapter 23. As Li Lingtian took the plaque and noticed that the number 1888 was written there, a faint smile appeared on his face. At that moment, he was feeling rather nostalgic. In his previous life, numbers were a very big deal to humans because they liked auspicious numbers. 8 was considered a lucky number, but he had never imagined that he would get the number 1888. Li Lingtian left reluctantly while numerous gazes of admiration and envy were fixed on him. Everyone would always pay attention to him when he was with Tang Ximen. However, he knew that their eyes were on him because they were jealous and in awe. The registration ended quickly after that, with a 2-hour break at noon before the tournament began in the afternoon. Since there were more than 10,000 disciples in the sect, the tournament would drag on for a long time if there were any delays. "Senior brother, I think I've seen Li Lingtian before," one of the Tier 9 warriors said once Li Lingtian had left. There was a pensive look on his face as well. Li Lingtian, Li Lingtian. "I know, he was the one who fought with Yang Xiaotian at the Life or Death Canyon." Another disciple, who was also a Tier 9 warrior, tried very hard to think about it before he finally recalled the Life or Death Canyon. When he thought of that place, he unconsciously looked at Li Lingtian and a shiver stirred in his heart. Li Lingtian and Tang Ximen walked to the edge of the square while they waited for the other disciples' tournaments to start. The young man was not concerned about his own tournament at all because his goal was to be the first in the inner sect so that he could compete against the warrior spirit powerhouses. Furthermore, since his number was 1888, he would be one of the last ones to compete. Tang Ximen ignored other people's gazes, but when she noticed the downcast look on Li Lingtian's face, her heart was overjoyed. "Brother Lingtian, why the long face? Is something troubling you? Could it be that you're still thinking about the royal princess or that senior sister from just now?" Tang Ximen spoke in a gentle tone. Both of them had grown up together all along, and they continued to meet each other occasionally once they had joined the sect. However, they had started seeing each other less over these last 2 years. Seeing that Li Lingtian's cultivation had greatly improved the last time they met, she was incredibly happy. Although she was worried about Li Lingtian entering the 10,000 Demons Valley, she understood that good men like him were determined to travel far and make their mark. With this, her longing for Li Lingtian grew more intense during this period of time. She was finally able to meet Li Lingtian at the tournament, but she noticed that he was with Shang Guanlinger and the others. Nangong Minjiao is merely the imperial family's royal princess, and she's extremely arrogant and haughty. Li Lingtian was stunned as he realized that Tang Ximen was envious. He could not be any more satisfied to have made his exceptionally beautiful goddess jealous. The young man shook his head when he thought of Nangong Minjiao. Looking back, he was a huge idiot for abandoning his beautiful fiancée in pursuit of Nangong Minjiao. He had really been one-track minded. As the tournament progressed quickly, he soon heard someone yelling out the number 1888 from the tall platform and a youth walked up to the arena. A faint smile appeared on Li Lingtian's face before he hurriedly rose and walked in the direction of the arena. He knew that his match was about to begin soon. "Brother Lingtian, do you feel confident?" Tang Ximen asked in a concerned manner as she gazed at her fiancé's silhouette. "Haha, this isn't my ultimate goal. My final goal is to get first place. In fact, I want to get first place in the entire intersection, Li Lingtian said before his figure moved faster. In the blink of an eye, he had disappeared in the sea of people. When he reappeared, he was already at the bottom of the arena, taking one step at a time towards the top. The first in the intersect. Tang Zimen mumbled to herself, and deep down, she was filled with shock. Brother Lingtian had changed a lot. He was so different that she almost could not recognize him anymore. Within a few short months, he had managed to progress from a Tier 6 warrior into a Tier 9 warrior. More so, his current aim was to be the first in the intersection. It doesn't matter if Brother Lingtian has changed because he'll always be the person whom I love the most. When she said that, Tang Zimen's beautiful little face blushed slightly. After all, she was Li Lingtian's fiancée. My name is Xiao Tian. The youth who was standing in the arena gave Li Lingtian a fist salute when he noticed that his opponent had arrived. Xiao Tian wanted to exchange pleasantries at first, but seeing that Li Lingtian was taking his time to walk into the area, he was suddenly filled with disdain. Li Lingtian. Although Li Lingtian noticed that the people below the arena were glaring at him scornfully, he continued to smile before he made an indifferent fist salute towards Xiao Tian. Junior brother Li, this place isn't suitable for you. You should leave. Otherwise, you'll get hurt later. Xiao Tian spoke arrogantly. It was clear that he was belittling Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian was a Tier 9 warrior, but he was probably just a youth who had relied on pills to improve himself. Numerous disciples below the stage had stunned looks on their faces as well. There was nobody younger than Li Lingtian at the third stage of the tournament, and neither had anyone imagined that a 14 or 15-year-old teenager could actually become a Tier 9 master. Do you have to keep blabbering to stay alive? Where is all this nonsense coming from? You can choose to leave the arena on your own unless you want me to escort you down. Li Lingtian cursed loudly, provoking his opponent. The other party was clearly looking for a fight. Or else, why was he so arrogant despite only being a Tier 9 warrior? Wow! The audience below the arena burst out into a commotion as numerous disciples who were watching the battle started to laugh loudly. Good luck, Brother Lingtian. When Tang Zimen's sweet voice rang out, all the disciples were suddenly stunned. They then turned and fixed their murderous gazes on Li Lingtian. Since you're courting death, I should just take this opportunity to teach you a lesson. Overlord Fist. Get lost. Xiao Tian was burning with rage on the inside. He was obviously offended after the teenager insulted him. Moreover, when he noticed that the goddess Tang Zimen was cheering for Li Lingtian, he wanted to show off in front of his dream girl as well. He was hoping that the beautiful girl would pay attention to him too. His true chi circulated throughout his entire body and his Earth Path warrior soul before he unleashed his Overlord Fist. The entire arena was instantly filled with his explosive chi and his great strength that traveled beyond the land. That's a fancy but impractical move. It may look impressive, but it's useless. Flaming Divine Fist, come forward for me. Li Lingtian glanced at him disdainfully. Xiao Tian's Earth Path warrior soul and defensive abilities were incredibly powerful, but his attacks were not as strong. Despite only being a Tier 9 defensive type warrior, that man was simply courting death when he attacked Li Lingtian. Without another word, Li Lingtian stepped forward and immediately threw an explosive blow with his fist. He did not circulate his techniques or use any flowery moves, it was just a simple punch, yet this punch was followed by a burning heat that seemed like it would swallow everything up. Boom! The moment an explosive noise echoed, a figure was seen tossed across the sky, drawing a beautiful arc as it went along. Eventually, Xiao Tian collapsed painfully in the arena and he lay there like a dead pig. He's just lying there. Damn, that's a frightening punch. He did it so naturally. It was such a smooth and clean sweep. Has the Amber Tier inferior Flaming Divine Fist always been so scary? Apparently, it's powerful. He has defeated his opponent so simply and immediately. He's frighteningly strong. When the numerous disciples below the stage saw that Xiao Tian had lost, they were utterly shocked. A teenager had defeated Xiao Tian with such ease, and this was not normal at all. That was such a clean sweep. I never knew that one could almost achieve conception if you cultivated the flaming divine fist to its limit. Warrior King Zhongling's eyes that were semi-shut earlier were now stern. He was originally unconcerned about this ordinary match between two Tier 9 disciples, but he had never imagined that a teenager could use the most inferior flaming divine fist to win against the superior overlord fist. Indeed, that was quite impressive. He's only 15 years old, but he has managed to advance his cultivation level and become a Tier 9 warrior while cultivating his skills to the limit as well. You won't find anyone else like him in Skycloud sect. Several Tier 9 warrior spirit peak judges were extremely stunned too. It was not a big deal to be a Tier 9 warrior. In fact, it was a perfectly normal matter. However, this particular situation was abnormal because of Li Lingtian's age and his innate talent for cultivating his skills. Not only was it abnormal, but it was terrifying as well. Li Lingtian wins. Longtian announced this out loud while he unconsciously did a double take at Li Lingtian. To have had praises from several elders, that young man must be an extraordinary person. Good job, brother Lingtian. Tang Ximen excitedly complimented him while the joyful feeling in her heart grew more intense. That young man was her very own brother Lingtian, her fiancé. Li Lingtian walked out of the arena and stopped beside Tang Ximen. His face wore a faint smile as he reached his hand out and stroked her beautiful hair. He was glad to be able to share his strength with her. Senior brother Li, your attack was so flawless. Chen Yun and the others walked over and praised him as well. The flaming divine fist was an inferior skill that all the disciples had looked down upon before this, but Li Lingtian had turned this lackluster skill into a mysteriously powerful one. The group then left the previous arena and walked toward the fourth stage arena. As they observed the matches between the warrior spirit powerhouses there, they noticed that the difference between the fourth stage matches and the competitions between the other disciples were worlds apart. On the first day, Li Lingtian entered 3 matches and had successfully joined the top 300, ranking as one of the top 300 disciples among the Tier 9 warriors. When the matches for that day ended, he had to wait until the next day to continue. He had managed to smoothly defeat his opponents with one punch during every match, but unfortunately, this also left many of his opponents feeling defeated. Although there were more than 10,000 disciples in the first and second stages, the matches finished at an incredibly quick pace. It seemed like every match was decided after one blow. Within one day, the matches at all 4 stages were progressing at a similar speed. Shweta had successfully advanced to the next round, and so did Chen Yun. However, he looked slightly disheveled. As a Tier 5 peak perfection warrior, Shang Guanlinger had successfully advanced to the next round as well. Let's go and celebrate because all of us have managed to advance to the next round. Shweta spoke loudly before he glanced at Li Lingtian as an effort to plead with him. Although Li Lingtian was the youngest, everyone gradually revolved around him because of his terrifying power. All right. Tang Ximen was instantly overjoyed when Li Lingtian nodded. Back then, she used to follow Li Lingtian out frequently to have fun when she had just arrived in the Skycloud sect, and she had missed that feeling terribly. Chapter 24. There were many inns and shops outside of Skycloud sect, but these establishments were operated by the sect's disciples. Outsiders had no means to get into business there. With tens of thousands Skycloud sect disciples living in Sky Mountains, needs would certainly have to be to fulfill. Hence, these inns and restaurants became the haven of Skycloud sect disciples. Abundance Restaurant was the go-to place in Skycloud sect. Even though the dishes there were the best, the price was beyond affordable, hence regular disciples could not afford to dine at such a place. However, the only ones who could afford a place like this were either genius disciples or highly skilled masters, as they were the only ones who had spiritual stones at their disposal. Senior sister, Please come in. Would it be the private room or main hall? The lowest expenditure for the private room is 500 spiritual stones while the main hall is 200 spiritual stones. A Tier 3 warrior disciple greeted the group of people that had arrived at the entrance of Abundance Restaurant. Judging by the way they dressed, the rest did not look like they were rich apart from Tang Ximen, who carried herself with a goddess-like bearing. So, the disciple only greeted Tang Ximen and ignored the rest including Li Lingtian. With eyes that spoke of disdain towards Li Lingtian's group, he announced the price tag on the private room and main hall. 500 spiritual stones. Li Lingtian gasped in surprise. His comical gesture left Shweta and the rest stunned. After all, there was no need for an exaggerated show of emotion. He. The hosting disciple who had welcomed the group showed his contempt upon noticing Li Lingtian's reaction and labeled him as another country bumpkin. However, Li Lingtian's following statement threw a curveball at the disciple. 500 spiritual stones. So little? Well, there's no class to that. Fine, we'll make do. Li Lingtian smacked the hosting disciple at the back of his head before darting him a steely gaze. This disciple deserved a spanking for acting like a snob. Senior brother, senior sister, please allow me to guide you to the private room on the second floor. Although the hosting disciple was dumbstruck, he dared not retaliate the slap in the head and he grew fearful instead. Nevertheless, the customers were king, so he immediately led all of them up the stairs. The group walked towards the second floor. The second floor also comprised the main hall, but it was surrounded by many private rooms as well. As they had climbed up the stairs and were about to enter a private room, they heard a faint voice. If it isn't Junior Sister Ximen, what a pleasant surprise. Following the faint voice, a young man, who was carrying a supposed carefree smile, walked over towards the group. With his eyes only on Tang Ximen, the young man ignored the others. Xiao Dongqing, it's you. At the appearance of this young man, Tang Ximen frowned and her smile hardened. It was obvious that she was familiar with this young man. Of course, Junior Sister Ximen, you're here and we came at the right time. Come, it's my treat. I won 3 consecutive rounds today, he. As Xiao Dongqing only had eyes for Tang Ximen, he disregarded the rest of the crew. He had come here to celebrate him winning 3 consecutive rounds in the tournament, so he was naturally ecstatic over meeting the goddess of his dreams. Are you mother ***ing blind? Li Lingtian struck a palm at him. As a loud blow echoed throughout the second floor, everyone turned their gaze over, dumbstruck by what they saw. A young man had given Xiao Dongqing, a Tier 9 peak warrior genius, a slap in the face. The image had surpassed their imaginations. You hit me. Without a chance to dodge, Xiao Dongqing felt a breeze against his face followed by a searing sting. That moment had left him in a complete daze. Picking up an arm to caress his flushed cheek, the young man stared blankly at Li Lingtian. He was still unable to come to grips on what had happened. PFT Shu. No one knew who cracked up first, but suddenly, the other dining warriors burst into laughter too. Since they were here, they must either be highly gifted or skilled, so they were unafraid of stirring a scene. Yeah, I struck you. Come bite me. Li Lingtian was rendered speechless. This dumb pig must be knocked out of his wits. This young man was playing with fire by wooing his woman in front of him. Meanwhile, Xiao Dongqing had returned to his senses. As his face reddened with rage, his body of true qi intensified as a display of his Tier 9 peak warrior abilities. The second floor was instantly filled with violent qi. He was pleased with himself after winning 3 rounds in the third stage today. However, he never thought that he would be slapped in the face by this young man, and in front of a large crowd too. He would never hear the end of it in Sky Cloud Sect if he did not cripple this young man. You dirty dog, how daring of you to make advances on my woman in front of me. Doesn't this call for a beating? Li Lingtian ignored Xiao Dongqing's vigor and kept a smile on his face. A tier 9 warrior sure had the guts to lay a hand on him. What? Tang Ximen is his woman. It must be a mistake. She's the goddess of our Sky Cloud sect. He's way out of her league. The growing clamor was proof that it was much more shocking than Xiao Dongqing getting slapped. The fact that the goddess of every Sky Cloud sect disciple's dream was his woman was a harder pill to swallow. Although Tang Ximen was taken aback, she was quickly filled with happiness and her glossy eyes fixated on Li Lingtian. This was the first time Li Lingtian admitted that she was his woman. Even if it were before, Li Lingtian had never proclaimed such a thing even though they were both well aware of their relationship. Moreover, he was in pursuit of Nangong Minjiao for a period of time. Impossible. I challenge you to a duel. Junior sister Ximen belongs to the strongest. Dismissing the earlier slapping incident from his mind, Xiao Dongqing cried out loud. Since the other warriors on the second floor were upset that their goddess was taken away from them as well, they all banded together. Are you out of your mind? I don't belong to anyone because my heart belongs to brother Lingtian. As though she had to validate Li Lingtian's words, Tang Ximen leaned towards Li Lingtian and answered in a soft voice. Although it was a whisper, everyone heard it clearly. I don't belong to anyone because my heart belongs to brother Lingtian. This sentence caused many warriors to break down. With pale faces, they could not hide their envy and jealousy. Don't think highly of yourself because you don't have an advantage. You're nothing in the eyes of others. Li Lingtian brought Tang Ximen into the private room after he said those words. Shweta, Shang Guanlinger, and the rest followed suit, leaving behind Xiao Dongqing with an empty look in his face as he lifelessly navigated out of the restaurant. The other warriors clammed up. This time, they had completely lost, or perhaps they never lost since they had never participated. After all, it was all one-sided wishful thinking. However, Li Lingtian's words struck a chord in all the warriors. They were so dumbstruck that they were inattentive to where Li Lingtian's group went. In the private room, the group had forgotten about the earlier episode as they dug in their meals to their heart's content. Tang Ximen was the happiest of all. She had never experienced happiness like today. With brother Li Lingtian's cultivation on the rise, she, as the fiancée, could not be happier for Li Lingtian. Moreover, she reveled in Li Lingtian's statement that she was his woman. By the time the group left the restaurant, it was late into the night. Shweta and the other two went about their ways while Li Lingtian escorted Tang Ximen back to her residence before he returned to his room. It was morning the next day when Sky Cloud Square was filled with a multitude of people because today's tournament would be a fierce one. There were several hundred participants remaining in the 4 stages of today's grand tournament. However, the tournament would not conclude on this day, as the further the tournament advanced, the longer time the battles would consume. Let me announce yesterday's tournament results. There are 400 disciples remaining in the first stage, 400 disciples in the second stage and third stage, and 200 disciples in the fourth stage. The grand tournament begins now, Long Tian announced. All warrior spirits and 4 warrior kings went to their seats before they began to preside over their respective arenas. Out of Li Lingtian's group, Shang Guanlinger went through her rounds the quickest and made it to the top 100. In other words, she could receive a prize if she won one more round. Chen Yun and Shweta were both eliminated, so they gathered around the third stage's arena to root for Li Lingtian. Number 1888, Li Lingtian against number 367, Zhong Yun, Long Tian shouted. Zhong Yun flew up to the arena and stared down at the warriors below. He would enter the top 200 if he bagged one more win, making him a step closer to the top 100. Zhong Yun, please enlighten me. With a bitter smile, Zhong Yun turned his gaze to Li Lingtian, who was in the arena. He was well versed in every opponent, but he did not have an inkling on this Li Lingtian. It was as though Li Lingtian had appeared out of thin air. In all 3 rounds yesterday, it was all a clean-cut easy win as Li Lingtian defeated his opponents with a single flaming divine fist. I'm Li Lingtian. Do you still want to go on with this match? Similar to yesterday, Li Lingtian threw the young man a question. He was not the least bit interested in a Tier 9 warrior since his eyes were fixed in the 4th stage's arena. Only a warrior spirit was a worthy opponent. Take a guess, between senior brother Li and senior brother Zhong, who would win? It's hard to say. Senior brother Li has won 3 consecutive rounds with an amber tier flaming divine fist, while senior brother Zhong has mastered a mediocre spiritual equipment and amber tier superior great compassion palm. I think senior brother Zhong has a greater chance. After weighing in Li Lingtian and Zhong Yun's capabilities, the disciples underneath the arena leaned towards Zhong Yun for the win. The victory scale was tipping towards Zhong Yun with his amber tier superior skill as well as his mediocre spiritual equipment. What an arrogant **CK. I'll have you know today that there'll always be someone better than you. Zhong Yun pressed forth an arm, invoking a quiver in the air. A powerful force emitted as he spun his arms. Following the movements of his palms, the air trembled violently. That's right. To be able to cultivate great compassion palm to its summit, he is one of his kind in the younger generation of disciples in Skycloud sect. A few warrior spirit powerhouses were gratified and satisfied to see the change in the atmosphere. Such a gifted disciple added value in strength to Skycloud sect. Great compassion palm. At a loud roar, Zhong Yun's violent vigor mounted over Li Lingtian after reaching a peak. The disciples who were gathered around the arena immediately moved back. Li Lingtian smiled faintly without a care. He knew that an amber tier superior skill cultivated to its summit surpassed the force of an onyx tier skill. However, it was still not on par with his flaming divine fist. Circulating the fire dragon's heart within him, Li Lingtian pushed a destructive flaming chi to his knuckles. As one in possession of a flaming sacred body, controlling flames came naturally to him. A tyrannical sharp force with endless flames ripped through the air. In the blink of an eye, 2 furious attacks came into blows. Chapter 25. Following a loud bang, Li Lingtian swayed his body and activated his breeze technique. At the swing of his arm, a silver glow flickered before his body descended on the ground and he stood firmly at the edge of the arena with his back towards Zhong Yun. PFT swoosh. Zhong Yun leaped to withdraw himself, but before he could secure a footing, a peculiar glow was shot towards him, catching him by surprise. The velocity was so quick, it almost surpassed the naked eye. The moment the destructive attack struck him in the chest, it also crushed his powerful defense. Like a kite with a cut in the string, he was blown away, and he eventually fell off the arena. After falling off the arena, Zhong Yun inspected his torn garment and blood-stained chest. Although he did sustain some injuries, he knew that Li Lingtian had shown mercy, else he would be long gone. What a peculiar blade glow! The speed went beyond a warrior. Even a warrior spirit would not be able to demonstrate such velocity. This is the astounding sword technique's first form, Bright Moon in Soft Breeze. Who would have thought he'd be able to cultivate this Bright Moon in Soft Breeze to fruition? Meticulous calculation, exquisite speed, and flawless. No warrior disciples would be able to ward off this move. It's a pity. Zhong Yun lost before he had a chance to use his spiritual equipment. The warrior spirits and warrior kings above the arenas nodded their heads in satisfaction as they engaged in a discussion on Li Lingtian's earlier move. This also came as a surprise to the countless disciples beneath the arena. Zhong Yun, who they had expected to win, did not even have a chance to demonstrate his spiritual equipment. Li Lingtian wins. Longtian announced Li Lingtian's victory. He then began to call other disciples up to the arena while spectating other ongoing matches. The tournament wore Longtian out the most as he had to host matches in 4 arenas without any break. Senior Brother Li, that strike was awesome and powerful. Hello, Senior Brother Li. Li Lingtian moved towards Tang Ximen after he got down from the arena. While he was on his way down, many warriors greeted Li Lingtian with respect. After all, it was a dog-eat-dog world. Li Lingtian may be young, but his terrifying abilities left everyone tiptoeing around him. At that moment, two Tier 3 warrior spirits were engaged in a fierce battle on the 4th stage's platform. Due to that, disciples beneath the arena had scattered afar as powerful forces ravaged the air. Tier 3 warrior spirit. I won't be able to win if I went for Bright Moon in Soft Breeze, unless I resort to using the Keelan Sword or Sky Perishing Spear. Li Lingtian played out the scenario in his mind, taking the angle of the Tier 3 warrior spirit's opponent as he watched the match happen on the platform. This was because he would sooner or later encounter a Tier 3 warrior spirit, perhaps even a Tier 6 or 7 warrior spirit. As time passed, Li Lingtian was back on the arena for another match, but he and other warriors were dumbstruck by this round. His opponent threw in the towel and admitted defeat. With that, he was now one of the top 100 disciples, and that gained him attention among countless disciples in Skycloud sect. In a short span of 2 days, Li Lingtian rose to fame faster than some of the top geniuses. He had triumphed the arena several times with only an amber tier inferior flaming divine fist and struck Zhong Yun out with a single blade in a battle. The morning tournament is over and will continue in the afternoon, Longtian declared after 2 rounds of matches ended. Following that, the disciples dispersed because there was no point in waiting when it was 2 hours away from the afternoon's matches. Li Lingtian and Tang Ximen left the square and headed deep into the mountains. They used to have fun in these places but had grown apart during the 2 years. Li Lingtian was going to return for rest because he had more rounds happening in the afternoon. There were 3 matches in the afternoon, and if luck was on his side, he would advance to the top 10. The top 10 disciples in the 3rd stage would have the opportunity to venture into higher level matches. However, he was in a great mood to have the company of a beauty. The duo spent the entire noon strolling in the mountains before they went back to the square. By the time they made it to the square, many disciples had arrived. In the ensuing afternoon, Li Lingtian had entered the top 10 without a hitch. Nevertheless, Li Lingtian did not fight with the other disciples for the ranking in the 10 top spots, and so, he ranked 10th. This was because he wanted to save his strength to compete for Skycloud sect's spot in the top 100 in tomorrow's competition. The top 10 rankings in the 3rd stage were nothing in comparison, as the inner sect geniuses were the true masters. All elimination rounds are over. Tomorrow marks the beginning of challenge rounds to decide Skycloud sect's top 100. After Longtian announced the instructions given by the 4 warrior kings, the warrior spirit and warrior king powerhouses departed the stage while other disciples went on their way. Brother Lingtian, Mengmeng will support you no matter what you do. I'll be heading off now. Rest well. Tang Ximen did not want to leave Li Lingtian, but she recalled Li Lingtian's aim to be top of the inner sect. She was aware that tomorrow was a huge day for Li Lingtian. As she did not want Li Lingtian to have any regrets, she had to stay away from disrupting Li Lingtian's rest. Hence, she trod towards her residence with heavy footsteps. Upon returning to his room, Li Lingtian cultivated in peace. He circulated Bright Moon in Soft Breeze, Vast Obscure Extermination, Flaming Divine Fist, and Ice Vitality Divine Fist to bring his skills to full play for the next day. In Skycloud sect, there was a restricted area where only Warrior King class elders were allowed in. This was the Divine Cloud Hall. Divine Cloud Hall was established by Skycloud sect's founder, warrior ruler Tian Yun. Any important matters involving the sect were discussed by elders who were warrior kings and above in Divine Cloud Hall. On this day, Divine Cloud Hall was brightly lit in the dark of the night. 20 warrior kings were seated in 2 rows in the hall, while an elder in black took a seat in the center. There was an absence of chi from this person, but he emitted an immovable vigor as if a weight was over everyone's head. There were many tier 6, 7, and even tier 9 warrior kings present, yet they dared not let out a breath in front of this elder. Ling Tianfeng, Skycloud sect's leader, was a tier 5 warrior ascendant powerhouse. He was a powerhouse of over a century years old, and he wielded the highest authority in Skycloud sect. These warrior kings beneath him were core members of Skycloud sect. Each one of them was dominant in their own right, yet here they were, gathered together. "What do you think of the tournament this time?" Ling Tianfeng dully asked. His voice may not be loud, but the vigor of a superior being filled the room. It was as if he reigned over the entire hall. The strength of a sect did not depend on the number of warrior kings or ascendants but the varying gifted disciples. The disciples held the key to the future to carry forward the section. Without any successors, the sect would meet its fated end. Sect leader: there are indeed many great disciples in this grand tournament. One of the disciples was still a warrior apprentice a year ago but seemed to have reached the tier 9 peak warrior in perfection in this tournament. He only demonstrated an amber tier inferior flaming divine fist in the few rounds, so I can't tell much about his ability. It's my first inability to read a warrior disciple. Qin Tian stood up and gave Ling Tianfeng a bow. Then, he explained the circumstance surrounding Ling Tian with a baffled look. History, identity, background. Ling Tianfeng paused before he showed some interest. He then looked at Qin Tian and asked indifferently. It was great for a sect to have a gifted disciple, but loyalty was a must. It would only spell trouble if he were a spy sent by other forces. The son of Sky Dragon Empire's nobleman Pingbei, the fiancé of the Tang family's granddaughter and an aristocrat to the empire. I suspect that he has something to do with the Fire Dragon Cave incident, or he wouldn't be in possession of such a pure flaming qi. Could it be? Could it be that he has entered the Fire Dragon Cave? Qin Tian disclosed Li Lingtian's identity and background. None of the details escaped their eyes. However, as Li Lingtian's display of his ordinary flaming divine fist's massive force from in the past 2 days came to mind, he immediately formed an association with the Fire Dragon Cave incident. Li Lingtian may think that others were unaware of the Fire Dragon Cave incident, but the cave was an important place in Sky Cloud sect. Sky Cloud sect had eyes on every movement and had long discovered the problem in Fire Dragon Cave. Save that for another day. It's his destiny if it really is him. Check on his warrior soul and attributes then. What about the other disciples? Ling Tianfeng nodded. As the sect leader of a super force, he was not bothered by this. It was alright for the sect to sustain a bit of loss as long as the Sky Cloud sect disciple checked out. The other disciples fared better than in former tournaments. Sky Cloud sect should gain a few warrior kings in less than 10 years. By the looks of it, the few talented disciples may eventually become the backbone of the section. Qin Tian went through a list of gifted disciples who participated in the last 2 days of the tournament. Those whom he approved of were great talents that had a shot in becoming warrior kings or warrior ascendants. This tournament will decide the direction of our Sky Cloud sect for the next century. You are all aware that the opening of Hidden Dragon Isle is around the corner. The 4 great empires of East Spirit Greenland, the 4 mysterious clans, and countless liberal cultivators will be entering the Isle. We, as part of the big 4 sects in Sky Dragon Empire, only hold 200 quotas for our sect. The chances are really slim, so each disciple that has access should be guaranteed an abundance of medicinal ingredients. If we're left with no other choices, anything that is unattainable to our Sky Cloud sect should be unattainable for the other sections. Ling Tianfeng spoke solemnly with expectant eyes. The East Spirit Greenland, 4 great empires, 4 mysterious clans, and countless liberal cultivators were looking forward to the opening of Hidden Dragon Isle. Hence, Sky Cloud sect could not afford to be careless. We understand. We will do our utmost on this matter. The warrior kings replied and saluted with respect. Not only would a powerful sect require great power, but it would also require the strength of cohesiveness. This time, Qin Tian, Zhongling, you 4 will be advancing to Hidden Dragon Isle to make sure no threats come to any Sky Cloud sect disciples. You're entrusted with full responsibility for the whole year on Hidden Dragon Isle. Double the prize for the top 3 disciples in the tournament. Ensure that they leave Hidden Dragon Isle safely to the best of your ability. These are the rewards for the top 3, but wait until the tournament is over before opening them. Also, double the benefits for all disciples and nurture the peripheral disciples after the tournament. Skycloud sect cannot wait any longer. Go now. At the swing of Ling Tianfeng's arm, 3 storage sacks appeared. Following his gaze, these storage sacks flew towards Qin Tian as if they were under his control. Ling Tianfeng then disappeared out of the blue. With that, the rest of the warrior kings swiftly left the divine cloud hall and returned to their post. Chapter 26. On the third day of Skycloud Sect Grand Tournament, the square was equally crowded, but it was also a livelier scene compared to the previous 2 days. It may seem like it was only a fight for the top 100 spots, but these 100 disciples would be able to reign supreme across Skycloud Sect. With this, many disciples had started to place their bets, waging on the person who could come out on top. The person they picked was a genius of great repute in Skycloud Sect. This person was also an extremely gifted warrior spirit at the height of tier 5 or 6. The ranking of the top 100 was a battle between disciples of all 4 stages, but only the top 10 disciples in the first, second, and third stages were eligible to take part, while the majority competing were disciples in the 4th stage. Those who would rank in the top 100 would be the warrior spirit powerhouses, because no warriors were capable of entering the ranking. Besides, warrior spirits numbered in hundreds and thousands, so those who could place in the top 100 were top-notch geniuses. The sect had made a rule that only the top 10 disciples in the 3 primary stages were eligible to participate, so that these low-level disciples were not denied of their abilities. There was a lot of law in this world, but there were also unexpected occurrences that rose above such laws. Thundering drum rolls filled the air, marking the last day of the grand tournament. This was the day to decide the ranking of the top 100, as well as the ranking of the top 10 among Skycloud Sect disciples. Today will be Skycloud Sect's last match. The battle for the ranking of the top 100 hereby begins. Let me announce the rules. The judges will arrange the battles for disciples in the 4th stage and decide on the ranking based on these battles. Those who refuse to accept the decision are allowed to challenge. Disciples of the remaining stages may challenge desired opponents after the ranking is decided. Long Tian simply explained the rules, and it was rather straightforward. The dozens of judges in the sect were either warrior spirit and warrior king powerhouses. They would decide the rank and respective opponents based on the disciples' combined strength in cultivation level, skills, abilities, as well as armed weapons. Through this method, the judges would be able to gauge the disciples' abilities. However, if one thought that their ability did not tally with their placing after the ranking was decided, they could throw down the gauntlet to a disciple of higher ranking. The challenger who won would then claim the ranking of the loser. Swoosh swoosh. The square suddenly turned silent after the announcement. Soon, a piercing sound broke through the air as a dozen or so figures flickered over. In the blink of an eye, the dozen-odd figures descended below the platform. Elders. 13 exceptional figures bowed before the warrior kings above the platform with respect. It's senior brother Duan Mu. That's senior brother Dongfang King Yu. Senior sister Lan Yuyan's there too. Murong Tianjiao is even more powerful now. Senior brother Xiao Tianba's blazing metal chi is compelling. For a moment, the square rose to a clamor. These 13 first-class gifted disciples had achieved tier 5 or 6 warrior spirits before the age of 30. Due to that, these super geniuses were the idols of all disciples. Duan Muqing, he. Li Lingtian looked towards Duan Muqing with a faint smile on his face before his gaze turned to Tang Ximen. Her 6th grandfather had his reason for wanting to betroth her to Duan Muqing. Brother Lingtian, what are you looking at me for? It's all 6th grandfather's doing. Meng is your fiancé and I belong to brother Lingtian for life, Tang Ximen responded in a sweet voice. She instantly knew what was in his mind the second Li Lingtian turned to look at her. Take a look, who do you think will finish first among them? With a gentle smile, Li Lingtian asked Tang Ximen in a soft voice. He then turned to Shweta and the rest. Li Lingtian had exceeded their expectations for the past few days. A genius who was capable of refining peerless pills, a madman who became a tier 9 warrior in mere months, a super gifted disciple who skyrocketed to the top 10, Li Lingtian's omnipotence had left quite an impression on them. I think that the odds are higher with Duan Muqing and Murong Tianxiao. Lan Yuyan and Xiao Tianba are quite the competitors. They should place in the top 3. Dongfang Qingyu seems powerful and mysterious. I would guess that he's one to look out for. The trio, including Shweta, had pondered for a while but still had a hard time deciding. These 13 elders were greatly nurtured by the sect and they had been provided with the best resources, pills, spiritual stones, weapons, techniques, as well as skills. As their cultivation levels were roughly the same, trying to single out the victor was no easy feat. I think that none of the 13 has a chance to claim first, Tang Ximen whispered. She kept her voice low within the group. Shweta and the 2 others were stunned and baffled. Who would reign supreme if not the one of the 13? Let the match begin. When the 100 disciples were done preparing, they began to compete. In the end, 13 disciples would be eliminated. If they could not accept defeat, these 13 could ask for a challenge. After all, these 13 spots were reserved for the 13 newly arrived super geniuses. I am Ling Xiao, please enlighten me. With a tier 2 warrior spirit and a fire path warrior soul, Ling Xiao had advanced into the top 100 with a mediocre spiritual equipment. All he had to do now was win this round and he would be able to gain a firm footing in the top 100. I'm Mu Ming, please enlighten me too. As Mu Ming was a tier 2 warrior spirit with a metal path warrior soul, it placed both of their abilities on par with one another. Hence, it was now up to their experience, mentality, and luck. Such an arrangement went to show the judges' good eye for detail. Flaming Slice. A mediocre spiritual equipment, blazing metal slice was suddenly struck and it overwhelmed the atmosphere with an explosive flaming chi. Aghast, the spectating disciples immediately jumped out of the way. Purple gold shuttle, penetrate. Not one to take it lying down, Mu Ming blasted a purple gold shuttle with just a wave of his hand. Then, a golden radiance flickered as it sped towards the flames. The destructive force of the golden attack was fearsome and it was much more overpowering than the drive of the fire path. In an instant, these 2 attacks collided against one another. In this battle between the strong, the duo could sense their own opponent's force through a single attack and they both knew that there was only a 50-50 chance to claim victory. In that split second, the duo decided to unleash their fullest potential. Following a dull crash, Ling Xiao's body shook violently like a quivering leaf as he fell off the arena. Helplessness and regret were written all over his face. Mu Ming wins. Long Tian declared loudly before calling another 2 warrior spirit disciples to enter the arena. The rest of the judges then began their deliberations in analyzing the rankings of Ling Xiao and Mu Ming. Li Lingtian no longer had his eyes peeled on the matches between these warrior spirit disciples. Instead, he turned his gaze to the 13 super geniuses because they were his opponents. He had no clue about the grand tournament's rules at the start, so he saw these disciples as his opponents. Yet now that he was in the know, he realized that these disciples were not worth his time as he could just challenge 10 front runners right there and then. Although this loophole existed, no one could take advantage of it. In other words, it was impossible for disciples of other stages to defeat the top 10 masters. Similarly, the 13 super geniuses had never bothered to observe the ongoing fights. Their huge prides naturally did not render these disciples as a threat. By the time morning had passed, the top 100 was determined. 13 warrior spirit disciples were knocked out, and even after challenging the ranks, no one was able to change their fate. This was the foresight of warrior spirit and warrior king powerhouses, the ability to analyze abilities in every aspect. With 87 positions in place, we will start from the 1st to 13th place. The 13 places have been arranged, and those who are unwilling to accept this decision can opt to challenge the system. Dongfang Qingyu, 1st place. Duan Muqing, 2nd place. Lan Yuyan, 3rd place. Xiao Tianba, 4th place. Murong Tianxiao, 5th place. Long Tian read out the ranking that was decided by the judges. This ranking was based on all the judges' analysis of the disciples' overall strength, but the actual ranking would still be determined by the matches between the disciples. As Long Tian rambled on about the placing, the disciples remained emotionless because they knew the real battle was just about to begin. I, Huangfu Xian, cannot accept the 13th place and wish to challenge senior brother Cheng Hao who is placed 6th. I, Lu Tian, cannot accept the 12th place and wish to challenge senior brother Bai Ziazi who is placed 7th. For a moment, those who placed 6th and below were either challenged or challenging others. No one dared to touch the top 5 disciples as they knew that the battle between the 5 was about to set off. Meng Meng, do you think I can compete with them? Li Lingtian whispered in Tang Ziman's ear. He felt great pressure mounting over him. Out of the 5 super disciples, only Xiao Tianba was a tier 5 warrior spirit. The remaining 4 were tier 6 warrior spirits. I believe in brother Lingtian. In fact, I will support brother Lingtian no matter what you do. Tang Ziman answered under her breath. Although Li Lingtian had proved to be a force to be reckoned with, he was still a warrior disciple. Competing with warrior spirit powerhouses was simply out of the question. Nevertheless, she did not want to put pressure on Li Lingtian. After all, it was dangerous to compete with a warrior spirit, and Tang Ziman was concerned that Li Lingtian would be crippled by these warrior spirit powerhouses. Cheng Hao, wins. Bai Ziazi, wins. Zhou Feng, wins. Bai Minjiao, wins. Of all 5 challengers, each of them suffered defeat in their battle. The disciples who failed in their attempt could only smile on bitterly. As such, no room was left to question the elders and judges' foresight. Currently, the 5 super geniuses in the top 5 remained unchallenged as they were all tier 6 warrior spirits apart from Xiao Tianba. Senior brother Dongfang, I haven't seen you for 5 years. We should settle the score this time. Murong Tianjiao stood up and walked towards the arena with his eyes fixed on Dongfang Qingyu. Dongfang Qingyu was placed first for the time being while Murong Tianjiao was placed last. Their abilities were neck to neck, without much of a difference between them. He did not take the ranking to heart because he would still initiate a challenge either way. Everyone in the top 5 was pinning for the number 1 spot. If someone else were to take the lead in challenging before he could throw down the gauntlet, he would be at a disadvantage. Chapter 27. Junior brother Murong, since we couldn't settle the score 5 years ago, let's settle it today. With a carefree smile, Murong Tianjiao reappeared in the arena in a flash. 5 years ago, the duo was in the 3rd stage of the tournament. They were battling it out for the first spot when both of them simultaneously sustained injuries and it subsequently tied them in first place. Using that as their motivation, they cultivated hard to triumph over each other for the past 5 years. Meteor Green Moon Slice. Dongfang Qingyu struck without holding back. After years of battle, they could no longer make out who was superior, but it was finally time to settle it once and for all. As the duo was familiar with each other's abilities, they immediately launched their most powerful attack without giving each other a breather. This wind path genius moved with such swiftness while the meteor Green Moon Slice, an ordinary spiritual equipment in his hand, channeled a domineering force. The combination of speed and attack raised the stakes on his overall strength. Then, an illuminated figure arched over the sky like a meteor before slicing down on Murong Tianxiao. As a slight quiver was felt in the atmosphere, every disciple within 100 yards of the arena watched in a distance with their jaws dropped. A windpath warrior soul is indeed powerful. Even my breeze technique wouldn't be able to catch up to him, he. As Dongfang Qingyu's attack and speed unfolded, Li Lingtian weighed in his options to counteract as an opponent in his mind. Senior brother Dongfang's meteor Green Moon Slice is imperious. He should be ranked first in Skycloud sect with that speed. That move alone is at least a tier 5 warrior spirit state. He's undefeatable. Underneath the arena, all disciples, including the other 3 super geniuses, gasped in horror at the attack. The duo's abilities were beyond them. With great luck, Dongfang Qingyu would definitely become a warrior king within 10 years. Skycloud sect will prosper with such a disciple. The elders and judges above the platform were engaged in a heated discussion but with a gratified look on their faces. Senior brother Dongfang has cultivated meteor green moon slice to its summit. It's no wonder. God's wrath, thousand waves stir. Murong Tianjiao was taken aback by Dongfang Qingyu's meteor green moon slice. It had never crossed his mind that his opponent could cultivate this move to its summit. Their experience of battling it out throughout the years had served as a reminder that there was no need to bother with some low-leveled skills and techniques because those attacks were useless. They were also concerned that other disciples would want to challenge them after true Qi had been exhausted. Hence, they opted to go forth using their most powerful attack to suppress their opponents, with the purpose of claiming victory in a single move. Good, these two are good. One dominates in speed and attack while the other reigns supreme in defense and mounting pressure. Meteor Green Moon Slice is the combination of speed and attack. Thousand Waves Stir is the overlay of several thousand attacks before it would erupt altogether. Many top warriors, as well as judges, exchanged views on their attacks. For a moment, it was hard to determine the victor. Murong Tianjiao is going to lose. Li Lingtian foresaw the outcome after witnessing both Dongfang Qingyu's attack and Thousand Waves Stir. His experience and wisdom easily enabled him to predict the result. Unaware of Li Lingtian's comments, the disciples watched with aghast as the two attacks collided. Following a thundering blow, violent forces burst out of the arena. Amid the strong blowout, the duo in the arena exchanged glances in a calm demeanor, prompting thousands of disciples in the square to hold their tongues. Tui! The sound of blood spewing suddenly broke the silence. Meanwhile, as violent forces towered the sky, Dongfang Qingyu moved in a flash while Murong Tianjiao fell motionlessly off the arena. Senior brother Murong lost. Senior brother Dongfang won. What a terrifying blow. No one would be able to withstand that move. The entire square was now engaged in various discussions over Dongfang Qingyu's victory. Li Lingtian was upset because an opponent he was worried about had made an appearance, a Windpath warrior soul super genius who moved at high velocity and struck a defiantly strong attack. Dongfang Qingyu wins, Murong Tianjiao has failed in his challenge. After obtaining the approval of various warrior king elders, Longtian loudly declared Dongfang Qingyu victorious. Dongfang Qingyu stood in the arena with a carefree smile on his face. It made countless female disciples head over heels with him. Is there anyone else who wishes to challenge the first place? The challenge for second place will begin in the other arena. Those who are interested in challenging the number 1 spot can wait 10 minutes, Longtian announced in a loud voice. This was because the one who won first place must accept challenges from other disciples at a maximum of 3 times. This way, it would prove that he deserved the position. Xiao Tianba, to challenge senior brother Duan Muo, Xiao Tianba said loudly. He was all too familiar with Dongfang Qingyu's cultivation level and ability. Equipped with the speed of a wind path and powerful attack, no one would be able to defeat Dongfang Qingyu unless one's cultivation level surpassed his. Okay, junior brother Xiao, are you sure you want to challenge me? Duan Muqing walked up to the arena and took a glance at Xiao Tianba. Xiao Tianba was only a tier 5 warrior spirit while the other disciples had advanced to tier 6. He would probably take Xiao Tianba seriously if it was before this, because of the vicious attack Xiao Tianba's Metal Path warrior soul had. However, now that he was a tier 6 peak warrior spirit, Xiao Tianba was not worth his time. While they conversed, Duan Mu curled his lips into a smile, alluding a rather elegant yet natural presence. What do you think? Xiao Tianba was indifferent to Duan Muqing's provocation. He knew what Duan Muqing was getting at, but it was only right to suppress all emotions in the arena prior to the outcome. Invincible golden body technique, immovable king's palm. Without wasting another breath, he circulated his body of true chi and ripped the dimension with his Tier 5 warrior spirit's metal path true chi. His metal path warrior soul brought forth a metal path dam that was instilled in the powerful invincible golden body, which was an onyx tier inferior skill. With a yard-long golden palm print appearing out of thin air, an aura of indistinct solemnity filled the atmosphere. Then, the palm print was viciously slammed onto Duan Muqing. This palm print gave off an unrivaled vibe that shook the arena and left every disciple shaking uncontrollably. They were all shocked that a warrior spirit's metal path attack was indeed revering. Such an attack was a rare sight to warrior-level disciples. It was a duel between the strongest, and it was a powerful metal path attack. I would have been wary of junior brother Xiao's immovable king's palm if it were before, but now, this move can only be effective on someone else. Star Radiance, Destroy. A destructive force soared in the sky, stunning the disciples in the square. They were captivated by this towering force. The air was ripped apart as though it was the apocalypse. The sky darkened, but a single glow like a star in the night flickered. What a terrifying chi! This is the star radiant body. Who would have thought that he had awakened the star radiant body? Pay close attention. Don't let them get hurt. Xiao Tianba would not be able to withstand the star radiant body. The 4 warrior king elders stood up in alarm. The omnipotent star radiant body had only existed in the legends, yet Duan Muqing had managed to awaken it. The star radiant body is indeed strong and a natural enemy to me. Duan Muqing must die. Li Lingtian was overwhelmed with shock. The star radiant body was a natural rival to the flaming sacred body. For him to transmigrate all the way here and activate the flaming sacred body, he was not going to allow a person with the star radiant body to remain alive in this world. He had been inquisitive about the miraculous body types and warrior souls for a period of time. He had not attached any weight to it before, but now that he possessed a flaming sacred body, he was convinced. Meanwhile, the disciples remained dumbstruck as a knuckle-sized radiance, that contrasted with gloomy skycloud sect's square, grew in volume. Immediately after, the radiance crashed onto Xiao Tianba like a shooting star. Boom! A destructive force blasted the arena to pieces. Following the destruction of Xiao Tianba's immovable king's palm, he was flung away from the arena. Xiao Tianba spewed a mouthful of blood. His invincible golden body technique was still intact as it protected his body with a flickering golden glow. However, his face had turned pale. It was lucky that he cultivated the invincible golden body. Or else, he would have ended up half dead, or if not worse, dead. Fortunately, he did not suffer serious injuries and was lucky to have escaped death. Senior brother Duan Muo, Senior brother Duan Muo. Star radiant body is horrifying. This is the strength of a tier 6 warrior spirit. The first place definitely belongs to senior brother Duan Muo. The star radiant body. Skycloud sect is bound to have a super genius who would reign the top 10 in the world. Looking at the proud Duan Muqing in the arena, the disciples beneath finally returned to their senses and showered him with faces of envy and admiration. With an air of worldly disdain, Duan Muqing swept a glance past the disciples in the square. He would triumph over Skycloud sect with the birth of the star radiant body. A great master would emerge amid Skycloud sect 10 years later. However, his expression hardened when his gaze fell on Tang Ximen, whose fair dainty hand was held by a young man. They looked intimate as she rested her body weight on him. Chapter 28. Sensing Duan Muqing's gaze, Li Lingtian's lips curled into a smile. He did not care for Duan Muqing's feelings. He had always taken Duan Muqing lightly, but now that he had discovered Duan Muqing's possession of star radiant body, Li Lingtian was brewing with killing intent. Since this person could not be subdued, he must be killed because they were natural enemies. Moreover, the fact that Duan Muqing's elders had used Tang Ximen as a pawn left him fuming with murderous intent. Duan Muqing wins. Long Tian said in a piercing voice, announcing Duan Muqing's victory. With 2 challenges over, there should be another 2 more rounds before the grand tournament comes to an end. Is there anyone else who wants to challenge? Long Tian's eyes fixated on Lan Yuyan. Out of the top 5, she was the only one who was neither challenged nor initiated a challenge, so naturally, his attention was on her. Needless to say, there should be a major battle between Duan Muqing and Dongfang Qingyu, but the chances were looking slim for Dongfang Qingyu. Star Radiant Body was beyond anyone's expectations. Senior brother Dongfang, will the first place be between us? Duan Muqing's piercing eyes turned away from Li Lingtian before it darted towards Lan Yuyan, then to Dongfang Qingyu. Only Dongfang Qingyu's cultivation was at a level worthy enough for them both to fight for the championship. With a stiffened face, Lan Yuyan coldly snorted. Although her ability did not match Dongfang Qingyu's and Duan Muqing's, she was displeased to be completely ignored by Duan Muqing. Haha, I know myself well enough to know that I won't be able to defeat junior brother Duan Mu with your star radiant body and destructive force. I forego the battle for first place. Taken aback by Dongfang Qingyu's words, the disciples in the square looked at Duan Muqing in shock. For Dongfang Qingyu, a super genius to voluntarily admit defeat, Duan Muqing's popularity and fame suddenly rose to great heights. The few warrior kings were dumbstruck, but they quickly wrapped their heads around it. The star radiant body was so powerful, it could lead to fatal destruction. There was no one else like Xiao Tianba who had cultivated the invincible golden body technique. Senior brother Duan Mu. Senior brother Duan Mu is placed first. The mighty senior brother Duan Mu. Senior brother Duan Mu is Skycloud Sex number 1. Countless disciples broke out in cheers. In this dog-eat-dog world, the people in it were realistic and hailed only the strongest. It was a foregone conclusion that Duan Muqing hailed first place, hence they cheered for the strong. The star radiant body must be crushed today. Li Lingtian took a glance at Tang Ximen before he revealed a broad grin. It would be harder to kill Duan Muqing in the future if not now. It was now or never. Brother Lingtian, Meng doesn't want you to risk your life. Tang Ximen looked into Li Lingtian's eyes as she spoke. She was aware of Li Lingtian's intention to fight Duan Muqing, but Duan Muqing's ability spoke for itself. However great Li Lingtian was, he was only a warrior. Moreover, Duan Muqing possessed a star radiant body. Worried sick, she could think of nothing but to stop Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian was not useless, and as long as they were left alone, both of them could live an ordinarily uneventful life. Now, I shall announce that the first place belongs to Duan Muqing, second place Dongfang Qingyu, third place Lan Yuyan, fourth place Xiao Tianba, and fifth place Murong Tianxiao. Are there any other disciples who wish to throw down the gauntlet? Seeing that there were no more disciples up for the challenge, Long Tian declared out loud. The last question was thrown towards the disciples in the third stage, but everyone knew well that warriors could not compare to warrior spirits. All the disciples erupted in cheers. No one could move Duan Muqing from first place. Skycloud sect would only grow stronger with star radiant body. Me. A faint voice rang out in disharmony. Amid the cheers, the soft yet clear voice made its way into everyone's ears. Turning their gaze to the source of the voice, they saw a smiling young man in white trod towards the arena, carrying a rather aloof demeanor. Tang Ximen, Shweta, and the rest of the gang followed close behind anxiously. It was impossible for anyone to stop Li Lingtian from carrying out his heart's desire. Shweta and the other two had placed their blind trust in Li Lingtian, but their beliefs were shaken at the face of a tier 6 warrior spirit with a star radiant body. He didn't even bother to compete for the top 10 in the third stage. What makes him think he can challenge a warrior spirit powerhouse? What a joke. Has he gone mad trying to be famous? Isn't he the peripheral trash? Don't embarrass yourself here. The thousands of disciples in the square burst into laughter. Not only had the peripheral trash made it to the third stage's top 10, but he was now trying to challenge a warrior spirit disciple in the inner section. Above the platform, dozens of piercing eyes swarmed over Li Lingtian. They looked at Li Lingtian astonishingly, with ever-changing expressions as though he was some alien. This disciple must have lost his mind. If not, why would he stir trouble with a warrior spirit? It was a gateway straight to hell. I get it. Old Duanmu and Old Tang are trying to form a partnership through marriage, but that little girl and this young man had been engaged since they were young. Hee, what's love for youngsters? So he's risking it for the goddess. Sigh, I'd be willing to die if someone treats me this way. Countless female disciples immediately saw the connection upon witnessing Li Lingtian's suicidal move to challenge the top 100 spot, and with Tang Ximen right beside him. Li Lingtian may only be 15 years old, but he had a build of an adult. His indifferent attitude and faint smile gave out a carefree vibe that naturally won over a lot of women's hearts. Who do you want to challenge? The 100th place. With a smile on his face, Longtian asked Li Lingtian aloud as Li Lingtian moved near the arena without stepping foot into it. He admired Li Lingtian's guts. Senior brother Duan Muqing's star-radiant body is fascinating. I wish to see more of it. Li Lingtian asserted as he bowed to Longtian and the judges above the platform. His gaze then turned to the arena that was now within his reach. Duan Muqing stood at ease on the shattered arena in a charming manner. Huh. Whoa. The disciples burst into an uproar before falling into a state of shock. Oh, the words that came out from his mouth? He wanted to challenge first place, Duan Muqing. Curious, the judges and warrior kings on the platform stood up to examine Li Lingtian. After concluding that this disciple had not lost his mind, they were at a loss by his action instead. Am I spinning, or is the world spinning? The world has gone mad. Oh my days, I can't take it. Wanting to challenge senior brother Duanmu, who's in first place, is he bored of life or joking? The disciples went numb as they no longer understood this world. Here was a mad youth who dared to challenge Duan Muqing for the sake of the goddess. Duan Muqing too was baffled for a moment, but his mood quickly turned to delight. This man was looking at his death wish, and he even thought that star-radiant body was fascinating. Was he implying that his star-radiant body was more apparent than real? Tang Ximen was not someone a good-for-nothing could have his way with, so Duan Muqing was determined to end Li Lingtian today. Due to his gift and ability, no one would dare say a thing if he were to kill Li Lingtian. In fact, being challenged by a good-for-nothing was an insult. His frustration would not die down if he did not kill Li Lingtian. Humph, who would have thought this useless piece of trash would become a tier 9 warrior? Yang Xiaotian noticed Li Lingtian's cultivation level. Li Lingtian was only a tier 6 warrior the last time he saw him, but he was now a tier 9 peak warrior. This gave Yang Xiaotian a bitter feeling. Senior brother Yang, you're an 8th place master in the inner sect. Don't tell me you're afraid of a warrior. Zhou Xiao glared at Yang Xiaotian with a peculiar grin. Both of them were always on opposing ends, and it had never occurred to him that his old rival would bear a grudge against a warrior. Humph, don't try to act funny. 8th place? I'm nothing before senior brother Dongfang and the rest. However, it's good if this good-for-nothing dies. It'll save me the trouble. Yang Xiaotian glared at Li Lingtian. He had never placed any importance on this good-for-nothing before, but he had since humiliated the Yang family by crippling a few of Yang family's disciples. You must be prepared to pay a heavy price for challenging me. Duan Muqing stared back at Li Lingtian angrily. The latter was playing with fire for laying a hand on a goddess like Tang Ximen. It was high time that Duan Muqing took this opportunity to kill him. At the sudden surge of an astounding vigor, forces were spread throughout a 30 miles radius. Sensing this mounting repression, the true qi in the body of many disciples were suppressed by this vigor. Duan Muqing wanted to crush Li Lingtian, this good-for-nothing, with vigor as a deterrent to others. This was to let them know that the pride of a warrior spirit, the top genius in Skycloud sect, should never be challenged. What a powerful vigor! Even a tier 9 warrior spirit can't amount to that. A possessor of the star radiant body is indeed omnipotent. The judges on the platform were surprised by Duan Muqing's vigor. The brilliance of others would be lost and buried by such a disciple in the section. Tens of thousands of disciples were equally amazed, and they foresaw that Li Lingtian would be crushed by this vigor. Shweta and the other two, along with Tang Ximen, were bracing themselves. There was no one amongst Skycloud sect disciples who could resist against a tier 6 warrior spirit's star radiant body. That's all. A monotonous voice was heard. The voice was not loud, but it shocked everyone who heard it. Just like that, his remarkable vigor was shot down by a comment. Chapter 29. Everyone turned their attention to Li Lingtian as they were baffled by his disposition. Li Lingtian looked like a floating cloud. Dressed in white, he carried an indifferent attitude whilst his slender figure exuded a rather calm presence amid the furious storm of forces. With his eyes on Duan Muqing, Li Lingtian circulated the heaven and earth reincarnation to set off the true qi in his body with haste, warding off the mighty repression. The fire dragon's heart spun quickly in his danshan too. However, the fire dragon's might was also profoundly powerful. Although he could not attain full control of the fire dragon's heart, it was more than enough to keep him from being crushed by Duan Muqing's repression. He gently took a step forward. With that, the vigor over his body suddenly intensified. With each step forward, the vigor over Li Lingtian increased, and as sounds of heavy footsteps echoed on the solid ground in the square, countless disciples' faces turned pale. They could feel the thumping on their chests. This vigor is very violent. His vigor is still rising. What a strange vigor. There's only one word to sum up the Sex Grand Tournament: fascinating. Back on the platform, the judges were having an intense discussion. The 4 warrior king elders perked up at the sight of Li Lingtian and became curious about his display of vigor. Get down here. With his vigor reaching a pinnacle, it drew a parallel of the strength between him and Duan Muqing. Looking at a proud Duan Muqing in the arena, Li Lingtian coldly blurted while he circulated his fire dragon's heart, prompting a defiant burst of flaming qi. The square shook following a bang. The two powerful vigors had come into blows. Li Lingtian's vigor may not be on a par with Duan Muqing's, but the might of the fire dragon's heart was incomparable. The result of the domineering flaming qi merging into his vigor was simply astounding. Humph! Duan Muqing let out a cold snort at the sound of the bang. He no longer looked down upon Li Lingtian, this warrior disciple, and instead, he could feel fear seeping into him. He was filled with furious rage when Li Lingtian shouted at him to get down. Li Lingtian's vigor may exceed his expectation, but he was still far from bearing comparison to him. Li Lingtian must be out of his mind to command him like that. However, whilst he snorted, he detected that a destructive flaming qi was rushing over towards him, forcing him to take a step back. With just one false step, he then fell off the arena. The warriors in the square were completely gobsmacked. It had never crossed their minds that Duan Muqing would be tripped off the arena by Li Lingtian's vigor. A tier 6 warrior spirit with the star radiant body was knocked down by the vigor of a tier 9 warrior disciple. The judges and 4 warrior king on the platform were dumbstruck too. I don't like to see those on high. Now, you can unleash your star radiant body. These careless words set another round of whirlwind among the warriors. Never had they seen such an arrogant person. After all that commotion of being crushed by vigor, the battle had not even started. How could they possibly take it? All right, all right. Duan Muqing descended onto the square. Visibly upset, he glared at Li Lingtian. His glowering face was an indication that he wanted to tear Li Lingtian apart. He had never thought that he would be humiliated in front of so many warriors. Star radiant body, destroy. He circulated his body of true qi to the extreme, stimulating the blood circulation in his star radiant body. Then, A giant light ball appeared in his hand. Compared to the darker end of the square, the giant ball was like the sun. It's the destructive force from the star radiant body again. It's over. Li Lingtian's definitely done for. Such a pity that he was too insolent. Li Lingtian would become a genius if he didn't step on senior brother Duan Muqing's toes. At the sight of Duan Muqing launching an attack, many disciples shared the same thought that the match was over. No one was able to withstand the destructive force, let alone a warrior disciple. Elder Qin, do we stop the match? Zhongling was shocked upon witnessing Duan Muqing's attack. He was pleased with Li Lingtian, so he did not want any harm to come to these two disciples. No matter how omnipotent the warrior disciple was, it was impossible for him to defend against the destructive force of a star-radiant body. Hold on. Qin Tian faintly answered, but he circulated his body of true qi in the meantime. In case Li Lingtian was at risk, he would be able to rescue him. Li Lingtian looked back calmly at the star-radiant body. Although he had a composed demeanor, killing intent was brewing within him. The person in possession of the star-radiant body must die. Star-radiant body, humph. Flaming divine fist, penetrate. He had circulated his heaven and earth reincarnation to the fullest that the fire dragon's heart in his dantian was at the point of exploding. Even his flaming sacred body could sense the violent destructive flaming chi stir in the fire dragon's heart. Once the fire dragon's heart was mobilized, a fearsome scorching force was sent to his arm. Li Lingtian then unleashed the flaming divine fist, and a flame that was the length of a yard emerged. What a strange flaming chi! I can't believe this horrifying flaming chi. Flaming sacred body, it's flaming sacred body. The warrior kings were taken aback by Li Lingtian's terrifying flaming chi. Although they thought nothing of Li Lingtian's cultivation level and ability, this flaming chi left them trembling in the knees. Flaming sacred body. It's the flaming sacred body. Flaming sacred body. It's the flaming sacred body in the legends. The flaming sacred body against the star-radiant body. It's no wonder. On the platform, the judges and warrior kings' minds were blown. They had finally witnessed the flaming sacred body in the flesh. The flaming sacred body had reputation no less to the star-radiant body, or perhaps it was even stronger. No, the flaming sacred body is a constitution, but this chi is familiar. Could it be the fire dragon cave? He went into the fire dragon cave. Investigate, look into it now. Elder Qin, it's the fire dragon's chi. As the warrior kings were wrapped in perplexity, the fire dragon cave came into Qin Tian's mind. This flaming chi carried a familiar fire dragon's chi, and in Sky Cloud sect, the fire dragon cave was most well known. Krung. At that moment, an earth-shattering blow exploded in the air. While the destructive force from the star-radiant body was heading towards Li Lingtian, it filled the atmosphere with catastrophic energy. Hence, Li Lingtian slammed the flaming divine fist with a blend of the fire dragon's heart's energy. The square was flipped upside down at the collision of the two attacks. Not only were countless disciples swept away by these forces, but both Li Lingtian and Duan Muqing were repulsed by the impact as well. Two separate sounds of blood spats followed. Struck by weight of destruction, the duo spat out a mouthful of blood. Retreat to over 200 yards, Long Tian shouted. The battle between two disciples had gone beyond the might of the warrior spirits. The affected area was incredibly massive, and any ordinary disciples would be killed upon contact. Not bad, not bad. You're the first to survive my destructive force. The murderous intent on Duan Muqing's face intensified. Being beaten by a warrior disciple had stripped his pride away. For the endless threats this disciple had brought about, he must be deprived of existence. Don't think highly of yourself. You're nothing in my eyes. We should bring a heavier storm. With a deranged smile on his face, Li Lingtian's slender figure withstood the inexhaustible tearing forces as his long mane scattered in all directions and swayed with the wind. He did not look like a good-for-nothing but rather an almighty master. Overlord Spear, Forces Destruction Strike. The star radiant body was a constitution that was extremely powerful, while the flaming sacred body was equally a vector and incomparable in its right. Nevertheless, the duo was unable to bring the constitution to full play due to their lack in cultivation level. For that, they would require the aid of skills and armed weapons. A foot-long imperious spear emerged with an air of destruction. In the blink of an eye, the spear pounced onto Li Lingtian as if it was an embodiment of a flood dragon. Li Lingtian unleashed the same ordinary spiritual equipment. The two ordinary spiritual equipments then clashed violently against one another, driving sounds of explosion. Li Lingtian continued to retreat and was eventually overcome by Duan Muqing. The difference between a Tier 6 warrior spirit and Tier 9 warrior was worlds apart. It would be a miracle if Li Lingtian survived this move. Li Lingtian could not gain a single advantage from the spiritual equipment. Moreover, Duan Muqing's Forces Destructive Strike was an Onyx tier skill. Li Lingtian immediately regretted not opting for the sky-perishing spear. As Li Lingtian gradually lost momentum, Duan Muqing laid bare his ruthlessness. He gathered all his strength into the spear and struck a deadly blow onto Li Lingtian. "Stop! Brother Lingtian!" Everyone in the square watched in horror, including the judges and warrior kings on the platform. However, it was too late to stop it. The sky-perishing spear was cast away from Li Lingtian's grip. With Duan Muqing's overlord spear already on its way, even a warrior king would not be able to intercept in such a distance. Do you think it'll be this easy? If so, I can only say that you're naive. Li Lingtian was surprised to find that the destructive force was corroding his body as the overlord spear approached. It was wishful thinking to dodge the overlord spear with breeze technique. Once the attack of a warrior spirit was targeted and locked in by the divine mindfulness, it was impossible to evade. At the arousal of his divine mindfulness, Li Lingtian extended his arm before a ring, the size of a palm emerged. The ring, alternating between red and blue color, enlarged to a yard long and acted as a barricade in front of Li Lingtian. A tiny voice was heard. Although the voice was soft, it caught Li Lingtian's attention. He was shocked to learn that someone here recognized the ice and fire ring. Something did not add up. After scanning with his divine mindfulness, he found a Tier 3 warrior spirit with mixed emotions, a blend of shock and excitement. Bam! The overlord spear rammed onto the ring with a thundering blow but failed to advance further. However, Li Lingtian was still blown away by the powerful assault, with traces of bloodstains on the edge of his lips. The ice and fire ring grew dim until it resumed to its original form and returned to Li Lingtian's hand. The ice and fire ring had blocked off this fatal strike. The square was now pin-drop silence. Everyone's jaw dropped at the sight that a mysterious treasure had warded off the overload spear from killing Li Lingtian. The four warrior kings let out a sigh of relief but were more so tickled with curiosity. Their abilities were miles apart, yet they displayed equal strength in the face of confrontation. They wanted to know just how many cards these two disciples had up their sleeves. A duel of this kind surpassed any battle amongst warrior spirit disciples. Chapter 30. Star Radiant Body, Sky Radiant Kill. The temporary silence was quickly disrupted. Li Lingtian and Duan Muqing then exchanged glances 50 yards apart. The murderous intent that was harboring in their hearts was at its extreme. With that blow, Li Lingtian had managed to resist against the overlord spear using a treasure. Duan Muqing's expression changed before a firm resolute flashed past his eyes. Then, he hurled a bloody pill into his mouth and immediately, his true chi spiked. Immediately after, he unleashed Sky Radiant Kill, an innate skill of the Star Radiant Body. As the square radiated in brilliance, countless disciples swiftly withdrew back. The four warrior kings nodded and spun their arms. Suddenly, a miraculous formation in the manifestation of a revolving halo appeared in the sky. This halo could dispatch a powerful might at the stir at the quartet's divine mindfulness. God-confining formation, the disciples with experience screamed. This miraculous God-confining formation did not possess any combat effectiveness but had the ability to trap warriors with the strength of true Qi. Meanwhile, Duan Muqing's sky radiant kill was on full display as dozens of strange radiants propelled towards Li Lingtian like locked-on missiles. Each one of the radiances carried the force of a Tier 9 peak warrior spirit. With a force like this, even a warrior king would be placed in harm's way against such an attack, let alone a Tier 9 warrior disciple. It's your death wish you're looking at? If you want to put a blame on someone, it should be yourself. You shouldn't have met me, a possessor of star radiant body. You must die. Everybody was gobsmacked by the glow, but the four warrior kings' expression turned grave. They could not afford to be careless. The victim, Li Lingtian, kept a calm demeanor. With his cold eyes fixed on the radiance and Duan Muqing, his murderous intent was now at a boiling point. He opened his mouth and whispered under his breath with a voice so soft, it could easily be ignored. After saying his piece, he stomped on the square with a determined look on his face. He then circulated his body of true Qi and tossed a thumb-sized pill into his mouth. Immediately, his exhausted true Qi recovered to its peak. Many disciples were baffled by this phenomenon, but madness quickly ensued. Duan Muqing had swallowed a pill to regain his true Qi in full, and now, Li Lingtian was also using a pill to recover his true Qi instantly. They were lost for words at the fact that these two madmen possessed such great treasures. This was because any pills or treasures that were capable of regaining true Qi in an instant was a guarantee of an extra life. Even a god won't be able to save you if I wanted you dead. Ice Vitality Divine Fist, 300-yard frost. Li Lingtian could finally feel the strength return to his body following the recovery of true Qi. He then circulated the Ice Vitality Warrior Soul within his body to trigger the immemorial ice crystal. Everyone on the scene immediately caught on to the drastic change. The warriors felt as though they had slipped into a glacier in the hot summer of June. With Li Lingtian as the focal point, the temperature dropped steeply within a 200-yard radius. In less than a second, the entire vicinity had turned into a glacier. The air froze and time seemed as if it had stopped. Meanwhile, the radiance of the star radiant body's sky radiant kill decelerated into a crawling ant pace. Ice Vitality Divine Fist. It's an Ice Vitality Warrior Soul. It really is an Ice Vitality Warrior Soul. What's going on? Doesn't he have a flaming sacred body? Why does he have an Ice Vitality Warrior Soul too? A double Warrior Soul, he has two Warrior Souls. Ice and Fire Warrior Souls. This person is in possession of a flaming sacred body yet is in control of an Ice Vitality Warrior Soul. How awesome is that? The judges and the four warrior kings on the platform finally lost their cool as they watched in horror, at the glacier that was 200 yards in length. Everything that unfolded before their eyes had surpassed their imagination. Warrior kings, despite their broadened horizons, were in a state of shock at the sight of the glacier. The sect had several disciples with Waterpath Warrior Souls and a handful of those in possession of Ice Vitality Warrior Souls, yet none of them had ever produced such results. The flaming sacred body was already a league on its own, but nobody would expect him to have acquired an Ice Vitality Warrior Soul too. While everyone was immersed in awe, Duan Muqing too was dumbstruck. There was no longer haughtiness in his eyes, only fear and despair. Erupt. With a shout, Li Lingtian smashed the ground with his knuckle and the glacier burst apart. Meanwhile, the elders on the platform yelled out loud upon sensing the impending incident, but it was too late. The 200-yard glacier was shattered into bits and pieces as a harrowing scream filled the air. The frozen Duan Muqing, who was originally stuck in the glacier, was smashed to smithereens. The square resumed its silence as the glacier succumbed to scraps. With a pale face, Li Lingtian spat out a mouthful of blood and his body wavered before falling on his bottom. The earlier move of unleashing Ice Vitality Divine Fist and prompting the immemorial ice crystal to shatter had left his meridians in a mess. Nevertheless, his face lit up with a smile. The star-radiant body was finally destroyed. What, What are we going to do? The firsts to regain their senses were the 4 warrior king elders. They were as shocked as they could ever be by the crushed glacier and absence of the star-radiant body possessor, Duan Mucheng. The top genius of Skycloud sect was gone, and if the sect leader and grand elder were to find out, they would be in trouble. What a terrifying 300-yard frost. This is the real ice vitality warrior soul. This is the real genius. Senior Brother Li's ice and fire warrior souls are great. Even a warrior king powerhouse would not be able to withstand this blow. It did not take long for the disciples to return to their senses, but with terror-filled faces. After witnessing Li Lingtian's ice vitality divine fist, a few disciples who possessed ice path warrior souls came to realize that they were nothing compared to Li Lingtian. Countless disciples went crazy. In the survival of the fittest, no one could hold out against Li Lingtian's ability. How could this be? Yang Xiaotian stared at Li Lingtian with a blank look on his face. He was so traumatized by the previous move, it was as if a shadow was cast over him. Senior Brother Li's number 1, Senior Brother Li's number 1. Senior Brother Li's number 1, Senior Brother Li's number 1. The warriors, no matter warrior spirits, warriors, or warrior apprentices in the square chanted amid the applause. Li Lingtian was the true master at this moment. Brother Lingtian is the best. Who would have thought that Senior Brother Li's ability has reached such a terrifying degree? This guy has really kept us in the dark. He didn't keep us in the dark. The flaming sacred body is a constitution that existed only in the legends, while the ice vitality warrior soul was rare. These 2 warrior souls would be greatly nurtured in any sect or force. If anyone were to discover that Senior Brother Li was in possession of the ice and fire warrior souls, he would be hunted down. And didn't you see Senior Brother Li's injuries after unleashing the ice vitality warrior soul? Tang Ximen stared at Li Lingtian with crystal clear like tears flowing down her eyes. They were tears of joy and happiness. In the end, Chen Yun had to lay out the facts of his analysis before the group nodded. With Li Lingtian wounded and Duan Muqing of the star radiant body gone, it was unknown how the sect would handle this. What are we to do? At this very moment, Zhang Ling had lost his composure as a warrior king. He felt uneasy that the star radiant body was gone and killed under his watch. How was he supposed to explain that to his superior? Part 3 of the series ends here. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe so we can be motivated to make even better videos in the future.